And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Today we're talking about a coronal mass ejection watch, a coronal mass ejection observed, and a possible sunspot rising. We'll tell you all about it. First thing we're doing is looking at a full disk image here. And you can see down in this area, you'll see a coronal mass ejection kicking off just after midnight. Large filament still attached to the solar disk. Here's a close-up of that area. And you can see this filament over here still there in between the Earth and Sun. It's a small coronal mass ejection, the one we saw, and it looks like it's actually going to miss to the north. So this coronal mass ejection way down in the southeastern portion of the disk ended up looking like it was going north. So taking a look at it from the viewpoint of Lagrange point 5, Lagrangian point 5, the location of stereo A. Here's the view from there. And you can see it looks like the Earth would be off to your right. The Earth would definitely be off to your right, but it looks like the coronal mass ejection is headed out to the north. So we don't have very good coronagraph imagery yet from the LASCO. More on this momentarily.
Just a good old smash. Never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw. Been in trouble on social media since before its existence. Straightening facts. Smacking down hacks. Someday our viewers might get me, but big tech never will. Making my way the only way I know how. That's just a little bit more than big tech will allow. Just a good old smash. Wouldn't change if I could. Fighting the nonsense, it's a neo-renaissance in the hood.
And once again, shout out to Mr. Keebler, Henry and Al. Thanks for the collabo. You can also find that a different version of that on their own page, Mr. Keebler. Make sure you subscribe there. Looking into the possibility of doing another collaboration soon. It's a secret as to what it'll be. Our regular viewers may have an idea. It has to do with Fauci shutting up. So we're showing some SDO images here, and I just wanted to bring up the SDO browse data page so I can show you this coronal mass ejection as it happens. Somehow looks like it ended up in the north, folks. So there you can see it. It's just after midnight, and it's visible on stereo A's coronagraph at about 4 o'clock Universal Time today on February 18th. Again, there are still plasma filaments suspended out there. Here's one more view. We'll save the rest of our Helio viewer movies until the end of the video. Massive coronal hole in the Earth-facing zone, and we can expect a significant coronal hole wind stream from that in about 3 days. Active region rising in the northeast, as well as some filaments up there. We'll show you close-ups again toward the end of the video. In the meantime, we've got a lot more stuff to cover here at the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. Here's where stuff's located in the solar system. And we like to show a planetary diagram daily, as there's a lot of nonsense on YouTube about planetary alignments and conjunctions and oppositions and ellipsoid fields and planets changing their orbits and so on. Anyway, all of that nonsense aside, here is where we expect things to be in a week, approaching another full moon, and you'll probably see worse sleep. Most people do. If you're up before dawn, you may see Saturn as well as Mercury rising ahead of the sun here. We do not have clear skies where I am. We're under a winter storm warning once again. And the 10.7 centimeter radial flux at 72. So a small uptick here. No surprise there as an active region's rising. There it is in context. The upper black line there is the 10.7 centimeter radial flux, a measurement of the coronal radio output. And there you can see the proportionality between sunspot number and the radio flux. And if you're a new viewer, thanks for tuning in. We look at it daily. We monitor a lot of stuff in great detail. Next, we're going to do volcanoes. And Etna's been exploding once again. A very powerful eruption last night, following Tuesday's spectacular paroxysm, which is a lava fountaining episode. It did produce a 30,000-foot ash plume a couple of days ago. Not sure the size of the ash plume there now, but Etna's still erupting in rather spectacular fashion. Also, now added to the list is Taal, the Philippine volcano. Seismic activity detected there. And a trend of inflation showed by satellite-based data. Yes, we're not talking about U.S. dollars at this point. We're talking about the inflation of the lava dome at the top of the volcano. So the area around the volcano is designated a permanent danger zone, or PDZ. The whole universe is a permanent danger zone, folks. Are you safe yet? Also, Mount Raung in East Java producing a 14,000-foot ash plume as it explodes. Popocatépetl, 20,000-foot ash plume as it explodes. Fuego in Guatemala exploding as well. 15,000-foot ash plume. There's San Cristobal. A small explosion there, including water vapor and small amounts of ash at the summit vent, were enough to produce a 7,500-foot plume of ash. Please do not fly your ultralight home-built aircraft over that. Sangay exploding, flight level 200. It's a 20,000-foot ash plume. Sabancaya, continuous ash emissions in Peru. And Copahu, don't cop a feel of Copahu down in Chile and Argentina. Must be right on the border. A volcano tectonic earthquake with a magnitude 3.4 at 5.4 kilometers depth was detected by the seismic network. Please do not attempt to pole vault the caldera. We saw 2 6-magnitude earthquakes in the past 24 hours. We'll get to it. They were both pretty close to each other, northwest of New Zealand and northeast of Australia. We're just going to scroll up the list here. There was a nearly 100-kilometer deep quake there in southern Mexico, a 4.5 magnitude at just under 100 kilometers depth. Here's a deep quake at Afghanistan. At a 4.1 magnitude. Here's a 4.3 magnitude deep quake at Indonesia. So a few deep quakes there at the bottom of the list. The last one, the Indonesian quake, was at 133 kilometers depth and occurred at 12:42 yesterday, February 17th. Iran saw a 5.4 magnitude quake. So there's this 6.1 at the Loyalty Islands. That one happened at 17:49 yesterday, 17:49 Universal Time. So at 10:02 Eastern Time is when that occurred. As Eastern U.S. time is Greenwich Mean Time -5. Here's the other 6+ magnitude quake. That one occurred near Vanuatu, close to the other 6 magnitude quake. That one happened at 1:37 Universal Time early this morning on February 18th. And a deep quake happening just a few hours ago in the Bande Sea. A 4.5 magnitude at 148 kilometers depth. Now, we are streaming live right now. The creation of this video was done at twitch.tv/smAsho because they've got a fantastic live streaming platform. We use it regularly. Before we go on, thanks to our patrons. By the way, that's twitch.tv/smAsho. To become a patron, and please consider doing so, head to patreon.com/smAsho. Thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. increasing the probability that these videos will continue to exist, be publicly visible, and free for everybody to view on time, we consider daily making our videos 1 day delayed, as we would still be ahead of most folks in our solar forecasting. We've got some business cards and stickers coming soon, and if you haven't checked out our own websites, please do so. And the video can't continue until you press like and subscribe if you're viewing on YouTube, as the place is on fire, and we have to keep using my breath to put out the flames, which is rife with carbon dioxide. Apparently, I've got a carbon footprint. Press pause, press share, press the notification bell, press like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Whether it's nice or not nice, it won't hurt our feelings. It's youtube.com/smAsho. Don't forget to check out our playlists also. We've just recently started a new one called Do One Thing. It's not a reference to phone scammers out of places like India and Pakistan. No, not at all. It's essentially motivational videos. So check those out. youtube.com/smAsho/playlists. Thanks to our viewers over at BitChute. Please don't forget to check us out over on YouTube if you only watch the content on BitChute, as there's exclusive content everywhere. And again, don't forget to check out our own websites, smashomash.org, smashomash.com. You'll be redirected from smashomash.org to smashomash.com. We've got links there to the forum, as well as to our merch shops. And we've got 9 smashomash.org presents the sun videos, some close-ups of the closest star, El Sol, otherwise known as the sun, the local yellow dwarf. And let's do a cosmology segment real quick. Today around 2 p.m., we're expecting the Mars Perseverance rover to land on the red planet. So you may want to check that out today. It'll be on NASA TV. As it touches down in the Jezero crater around 3:55 p.m. There's going to be a 7-minute period of terror that happens as the Mars rover decelerates from about 12,000 miles per hour to about 2 miles per hour through a series of booster rockets and parachutes. There will also be a drone, a small helicopter, deployed from this. It's a pretty complicated mission here, and you can watch it again at NASA TV. We'll give you the URL in a minute. I'll just let the article scroll here. If you want to pause it to read the article, feel free. We'll be here when you unpause. So there'll be some deeper drilling happening from this one, and it should be an interesting mission, as planetary formation is now up in the air when it comes to cosmology, and you can view that live at nasa.gov/live. Commentary starts at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, the URL is nasa.gov/live. And let's roll a die to get a random number between 1 and 1031, which will coincide with some object at the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory, and BAT stands for Burst Alert Telescope. Today's number is 956. Let's see what we have today in the quantum random number offering. Again, that's 956, which coincides with CTS 109, a Seyfert 1 galaxy, which is a type of active galactic nucleus. And apparently it features a pretty consistent X-ray output, as you can see here. No real significant cyclical variation there from galaxy CTS 109. And we'll show you some imagery from that on the SIMBAD. I have a feeling it'll probably show up. Will it be a spiral or an elliptical? Well, it looks like an elliptical galaxy. There it is on the SIMBAD. And we'll also pull up the Aladdin light here to show some additional wavelengths. So here it is on the 2MASS. That is infrared light. And there it is on the DSS2 in optical. And let's see if it shows up on the XMM. There it is on the XMM Newton, the multi-mirror project. And here it is on Chandra. Here it isn't on Chandra. Anyway, it's also known as 2 Maxi J2131-334, Galaxy CTS 109, today's featured object in today's cosmology segment. And thanks for tuning into it here at the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. We're into observations, not imaginations. So here is the GOES X-ray flux over the past 3 days, and you can see a rising base level here. We've almost gone up to just a baseline B level of X-ray output, and it's all because of that rising region, which is also responsible for the increase in the 10.7 centimeter radio flux output. A little bit of activity, no protons striking the ionosphere here, and the GOES 16 makes its measurements there at the F ionosphere layer. Flatline proton flux, no coronal mass ejections have struck. Next, looking at the real-time solar wind, it's time for me to vanish. And here is the solar wind report. Current solar wind density 6.29 protons per cubic centimeter. Current solar wind speed 386 kilometers per second. Again, we can expect a coronal hole wind stream in 2 to 3 days from that large Earth-facing coronal hole. And the KP index is at 1. And for you new viewers, the KP index is a measurement of global geomagnetism. Here's a visualization of global geomagnetism. It's the Geospace Magnetosphere movie showing magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And you can see the majority of the pressure is in the magnetotail. As solar protons are accelerated back into the solar wind as they're slowed down by the magnetosphere and then reaccelerated, which is why you see that high pressure in the magnetotail region. More pressure there than in the bow shock region. No surprise with a weak solar wind speed and density. Here are ground magnetic perturbations, and when it says delta B, we're talking about changes in the B field, the Earth's B field, the field that goes through a magnet. And since we're living through a polar excursion, a geomagnetic excursion, where we have 2 north poles, and a lot of indications that we have 2 south poles. But in any case, that's 4 hours of data showing changes in the Earth's B field. No major ones, as there are not a lot of solar protons right now, or high-speed ones, causing a lot of induction through Bremsstrahlung, which is the braking radiation of those incoming solar protons. Here's the GOES magnetometer over the past 3 days, and you see pretty spiky readings here. Again, there's a lot of plasma in between the sun and the Earth, and plasma makes it more difficult to make magnetometer measurements. So what's happening is plasma is aligning to being heated up by and blocking the measurement of magnetic fields on both ends. And that's why we're getting these low readings as we forecasted yesterday. So here's the ecliptic plane field plot here. You can see the heliospheric current sheet, Earth solidly in a south pole current sheet here, shown in red. And actually that rising active region will extend the south pole current sheet at the Earth's latitude, so to speak. And so we can expect to see the Earth solidly in the south pole current sheet for the foreseeable future. And let me bring up the latest image here, and you can see this area right here. That is that plasma filament that's in the corona right now. Once the Earth snaps out of that area, we'll see higher magnetometer readings, assuming nothing suddenly changes, and it indeed can suddenly change. This data 1 hour and 41 minutes old. Here's a line of sight field plot. And speaking of B fields, the sun's B field is shown here in blue. And we do see some affectation of the B field by that active region. You'll see it pulled up a little bit here in the last image. You can see a little bit of change in the shape of that as we ramp up in solar activity to solar maximum, cycle 25. Here's a line of sight coronal hole field plot. And this shows you that coronal hole. You can see it's just in the Earth-facing zone right now. And by the time we view the premiere, that'll be out of the Earth-facing zone. Again, we can expect a coronal hole wind stream from that in 2 to 3 days. Here's the coronal hole, the coronal magnetic field plot. It's a chaotic place. Nothing to really comment on there. If you need to pause this, feel free to pause this delightful image of the altitudes of things like the F-ionosphere layer shown there on the right, the thermosphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, etc. And if you need to pause this one, feel free. It shows you the altitude of the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory, at about 22,000 miles. GPS satellites, the low Earth orbit of the International Space Station at 230 miles. As we move into the realm of electrons, that's why we show this image. And we don't see any charging hazards. We see low levels of electron flux over the past 3 days. There's the GOES electron flux, greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volts. And there it is in context over the past year. Here's a visualization of the total electron content forecast. This will show you where GPS errors are. So if you see dark blue over you, you won't see many GPS errors. If you see yellow or orange or red, you'll see significant GPS errors, as those satellites must communicate through a dense region of electrons, which affects the measurements. And the forecast is for an uptick in the electron flux here. I would agree, except for this one. That last square, which is the forecast, and the yellow diamonds are the observation. We're expecting that last one to be a little bit lower here, as in about 2 to 3 days. We should see that coronal hole wind stream, which should cause a reduction in the electron fluence. Next, looking at the ionosphere, this is where the GOES 16 is making its measurements as we speak. Ionosphere was a little bit anomalously and suddenly charging up yesterday. Today, not so much. Here's the latest image, looking pretty normal to me at 11:15 Universal Time. Check out the weather.gov map. We still see hundreds of counties in winter storm warning, including where I am. And if you're wondering where SMASH staff and I are located, we are right there in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And shout out to Granddad and to all of our blind listeners. It's part of the reason why we talk about every slide, because indeed we do have and have had blind, I'd call them viewers, but they're actually listeners, for years now. Next, looking at the jet streams of the Western world, and they are extremely chaotic. And the jet stream flow is what's creating these ultra-cold temperatures in places like Texas, as cold air is injected all the way from central Canada, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. Yowzers. Here are the jets of the eastern world. And check out the extreme meridional jet stream flow here over eastern Australia. Check that out. Yowzers. Oh my God. The jet stream making two 180-degree bends here. South and southeast of the Australian continent. Really, the whole southern hemisphere's jet stream is all over the place. Shaped like a square, and everybody knows who views our channel that all shapes are scary. And they mean that you're probably going to die. And thanks for leaving a comment, TinMan1057. Good morning to you too. May you live long and prosper. Number 1, I order you to take a number 2. Engage. Here's a real-time lightning map. We actually see some lightning here over the U.S., I think, near the Florida Panhandle. Hey, Panama City, there's thunder rolling in. Again, I use lightningmaps.org for my real-time lightning maps when I hear thunder, as it allows us to actually forecast thunder strikes. And I don't know why I'm on open maps here. I don't want to be on open maps here. And here's Tropical Tidbits. We're going to show you briefly the GFS snow forecast. We're expected to get like 6 to 10 inches here in Pennsylvania, which will probably result in us creating additional content today. This is the forecast through 12 Universal Time on Saturday. So at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, that's where we expect the new snowfall to be. Additional snow falling in southwestern Texas, southeastern Texas, the northern Rockies, and a whole bunch in the mid-Atlantic region, all the way from Virginia up to Cape Cod. Again, we are in a winter storm warning condition here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Here's the Euro forecast. We'll advance this to the same point. And that is 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. Snow forecast looking pretty well in line there. Massive low pressure system by that point expected to be a few hundred miles off the coast of Cape Cod. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer as we continue with meteorology sections. And here's a water vapor map. And you can see that atmospheric river stretching all the way from now Alabama to New Hampshire. Clouds, water vapor. And here's the U.S. Doppler radar map, and you can see the heaviest bands of snow are just striking us now here in eastern Pennsylvania. Major ice storm there in northern North Carolina and southern Virginia, as well as southern Delaware, Maryland, places like Ocean City, most likely receiving, Ocean City, Maryland, that is, receiving some ice, an additional ice fall in Texas, who has solved most of their power problems. So the situation appears to have improved a lot in Texas as they see historic snow and ice and record-breaking temperatures. Here's a situation around Dallas. Yowzers. And when you get major snowfall in places that aren't used to seeing snowfall, folks, you get a disaster. Like when you see major snowfall in England, people have no idea how to drive in it. If you don't know how to drive in it, please don't drive in it. We need the views on YouTube. And we'll show you the power outage map here. So it looks like less than 1 million customers out of power here now in Texas, down to 652,000 of the 12 million tracked. That's a huge improvement. I think we showed about nearly 4 million 2 days ago and nearly 3 million yesterday. Oregon still with 100,000 out. Louisiana and Mississippi, about 300,000 out of power there. Also Alabama, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, and Virginia experiencing significant power outages. And thanks for tuning in, folks. We got bonus features. So don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. See, hey, that's an awful nice video you got there. Be a shame if it continued with bonus features. Again, make sure you check out our playlists over there. Otherwise, hey, that's an awful nice YouTube series of videos you've watched. Hey, that's an awful nice YouTube history you got there. Be a shame if it included our videos, eh? So press like and subscribe. Press the notification bell and share the content on your social media. The algorithms hate us. We're going to show you the colorized magnetogram and the solar intensitygram. Colorized magnetogram first. As we see another area of magnetic organization, we'll have to check that for sunspots. Right after I vanish. So this active region rising over here, but check this out. This could actually be a sunspot. That, I think, is a sunspot. Spontaneously forming there in the northwest. Let's see if we see umbre. And indeed we do. So there you go. It's sunspot 2802. And let's see if we see umbre associated with this active region rising in the northeast. Doesn't look like it. Could be a sunspot, just not sure yet. It hasn't risen enough, but it looks awfully big. And strangely, it's actually led by a South Pole oriented field. So you see that field there. That's a South Pole field there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And when we say ion, well, the pun is intentional. And we've got the rest of our HelioViewer movies here. We'll show you the southern hemisphere in 193 angstroms. And this will include the coronal mass ejection. Make sure I have that on screen, and indeed I do. All right, there we go. I'll let that play through in its entirety. Great view of that coronal hole as well. Here's a full disk view in 171 angstroms. And you see that sunspot in the northwest spontaneously forming there. A great example of how the magnetic environment can suddenly change with absolutely no warning. So here's that active region in the northeast. My mistake. And a small filament up here as well. Again, keep in mind, folks, there could be more coronal mass ejections kicking off. We'll keep you posted. Here's 304 angstroms of the same area. And you can see it looks like material is being sucked into the sunspot there, or that active region, I'll call it. Since we don't see any umbre yet, I don't want to refer to it as a sunspot. And last but not least, we'll show that same area in 193 angstroms. Great view of that filament. Yesterday it looked like Squatter Man. Did anybody notice that? In any case, thanks again for tuning in, folks. It's about time to close this thing out. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. smAsho. And again, if you enjoy the content, please don't forget to press like, subscribe, notification bell, and share. Share with your friends, your foes, your science noobs, and science pros. Look for more content coming out today. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your arteries. And thanks for leaving a comment, Panny9.